you get access to candidates. Before we get started, let's cover the basics. Our co-host today is Mike with To the Point Podcast. If you haven't been there, write it down and go visit To the Point Podcast. Our guest candidate today is David Shaw. He's the candidate for Indian River County Commission District 3. Now, the way the space works, everyone has one little microphone on the bottom left. Press that when you're ready to speak, and I'll bring you up, and you'll raise your hand so we know you're ready to speak, and we'll take turns that way. All righty, so let's get started. David Shaw, your dad ran in 2022 for Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. You come from a hardworking America First family. Your family owns and operates a farming business. I just wanted to say that I'm glad to see another Shaw stepping up to work for the people. You know, this is a great opportunity for you to tell us a little about yourself. And I'm really happy because we need more blue collar citizens to step up like you today instead of recycled career politicians. So tell us a little about yourself and why you're running for county commission.
Hello, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you for that introduction. And thank you for inviting me on this tonight. So a little bit about myself. I'm one of 8. I'm the youngest. I have five sisters, 2 brothers. So I learned kind of the art of negotiation at a young age. I had to work around my siblings. Definitely my 2 brothers, they were collegiate athletes, so they were they were big, and they kept me in my place. But I grew up in a strong Christian moral household. My parents have been together for over 40 years. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, so I'm a transplant down here. But I've been coming down here for 15 years now. I played college. I was a football player for Maryland, Big Ten. I was a defensive lineman. I played there, and I played also at Montana, Grizzly. So I'm not afraid of confrontation. I studied sociology and criminology at Maryland and Montana. Montana is where I actually got my degree. I came home. I started managing the southern portion of the family business. I've been doing that for 5 years now. I got into real estate, and then kind of during around COVID, I started being a lot more familiar. Started getting into politics a lot more because you couldn't really hide away from it anymore. So that opened to my eyes to what's happening in this country and how important it is for I don't think local government gets enough as attention as it deserves, because it's a very fundamental part of our society. So that's kind of a little bit about me. And one of the main reasons that I want to run, I'm running for County Commissioner District 3. The main reason, specifically for Vero Beach, is I love this place. I'm engaged to get married in September. I want to have a future here, and I want to keep Vero on the track that it's going, support growth. But that's kind of, I'm looking at what's going on. You got to take into account with everything. I'm looking on what's going on with the immigration. Everybody's coming over here, and it's just kind of a little nerve-wracking for a younger guy. I'm 29 years old. So instead of just sitting on the sidelines and complaining about it, I'm putting my name in the hat and I want to do my best to make a difference and give back to my community. And I want to. I'm not looking at this job as a career. I'm here for the people. I wanted for the community, for what the people believe, and I'm not. I have a clean slate, no friends, so I'm in nobody's pocket, and that's kind of the gist of what I am and why I got into running for county commissioner.
All right. Well, you mentioned growth. So Florida, you're right. Florida is the hot spot for what I call sanctuary state American refugees, where they're running away from their states that are, inviting all of these immigrants in, and it's getting crazy over there. Many people are leaving their Democratic-run states to reside in Florida. With this kind of population growth, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or projects in our county?
Can I ask you to be a little more specific? With were you asking on bringing in more properties for more people, for more American citizens to come down to Vero Beach? Is that what you're asking? Or are you worried about immigration coming into the area?
Well, we're not. What's happening is a lot of people are leaving their states, David, and they're coming
Yes.
here and they're moving to Florida. So while they're moving to Florida, they're also moving to our lovely county, Indian River County, which is increasing the population. It's estimated that we're going to have about 200,000 residents by 2030. So the infrastructure, that's going to involve your roads, your highways, all the way sewer. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to take place for this county's growth. And part of that question is, what do you see for the future, and what do you think is going to be pressing in this infrastructure to accommodate that type of growth that we see already happening here?
Yes. I look at it through the lens. I like strong, steady growth. I'm not looking at sudden just pumping out houses. I feel it is a privilege to live in Vero Beach, Florida. So I take it as a viewpoint of you need growth or you die. So I'm never against growth. I think it just needs to be controlled in a proper manner and not be too speedy. I have this I printed this off. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a 781 acre it used to be a previous grove, an orange grove, right on the west side of 95. And this is the stuff that I think it is very important for our county commissioners, because the county commissioner has the control over zoning. And I have it actually right here, the statement of function from Indian River County. It says the Board of County Commissioners is the governing body of the Indian River County. The Board of County Commissioners sets the laws and policies under which this county runs. So basically, it is a vital role that governs this county. And I brought this up to say, this is what kind of scares me. They see this property for sale on the west side of 95. Now, luckily, this is restricted easement where you can't have any permanent structures on there. However, that could easily be changed if some big corporation came down here and said, we're going to just start building homes. So I go back to, it definitely happened during COVID, definitely with Ron DeSantis, great governor. This place became a very sanctuary place. People felt safe here, lower tax bracket. So people just surged out here, and it's great weather, and it's a beautiful area. So I think it needs to be proper and well thought out controlled growth here, to answer your question.
Hey, David, this is Mike. I'm going to butt in here. Thank you for joining us tonight. On this subject, as Indian River County approaches its centennial, we're approaching 171,000 in population, and that's a 2.1% growth. But in 2022, we're trending at a 7.1% living under poverty.
Yes.
Or living in poverty. What would your plan, or what would you try to introduce to help curb the growth living in poverty as our population trends upwards?
Yes, that's a good question. We're living in a tech age, because I look around Vero Beach, it's a lot of retail. There is not that many well-paying jobs, and that causes a problem. So my mindset would be to get some kind of tech industry more in this area that could provide those well-paying jobs. Because I look at those two apartment complexes they put up right off of 60 when you're heading west to 95. Do you know which ones I'm referring to?
I do. Yep.
I look at that, and I'm that is kind of backwards the growth how I deem it should be. You should bring in the jobs, the opportunity to make a living wage before you start pumping the increase.
It seems, yeah, I agree. Not to interrupt, but I agree, because it seems as if we're introducing more income controlled type housing and not encouraging quite the opposite.
Yeah, that's correct. I like I said, it is mainly retail business here, and we're living in such a tech industry, and we have great taxes here. I don't see why not. We get a couple good brains together, and we start talking to companies and to start getting more tech industry in this area that wouldn't have too much of an imprint. Because I don't want just properties getting taken up with. I'm not looking at bringing in factories or anything. Something that could fit into our community smoothly, but provide well-paying jobs. Because I think it is very dangerous to increase the living without increasing first the income, the possibility of income, because that just leads to poverty, and then that eventually leads to more homeless. That could lead to higher crime rates, and it just Vero Beach, I feel is way too nice to let I want to protect it. I have this article here written by, I might butcher the guy's name, but it's Marco Santarelli. We just published this February 2nd, 2024, and this article says worst places to live in Florida for families and retirees, and number 7 on the list is Fort Pierce. That's right down, that's our neighbor. And he just says a little bit of stuff right here. It says Fort Pierce is often cited as one of the worst places to live in Florida for families. The city has a high crime rate that exceeds the national average, raising concerns about safety for families. Fort Pierce is also struggles with weak economy, limited access to quality education, and lack of recreational activities for children. The city's infrastructure is also inadequate. There are limited jobs opportunities outside of tourism and service sectors. Now, that is what I've been seeing, and that's why I'm putting my name in the hat because we need to be the people of this community need to be protected. I'm trying to be proactive here and keep Vero the way it is with steady growth, because there's plenty of places that have exploded in Florida in growth, and it leads to a lot of negativity from what I've seen, and where I grew up. I grew up in a blue collar area in Pennsylvania. It was all farmland, and then these farmers started going out of business, and then these big conglomerates came in and bought it up, and they just started putting housing in, and it just led to a lot of negativities that I saw, and it's just not something I like seeing when I see we have such a beautiful area. So that's about it on that.
So, David, you're right where I was. I ran for county commissioner. That was one of my major concerns, is because we're building the infrastructure, we're building the housing, but where are all the jobs? When the Chamber of Commerce here talks about jobs, they talk, well, we have manufacturers. Well, what the real deal is our county's lacking in industrial and commercial industry of large enterprises that supply good paying jobs for 500 plus employees. We have Piper, which supplies up to 1,000 jobs. And then we have 4 other small manufacturers that employ anywhere from maybe 100 to 125 employees. And then you have a mixture of 8 others that employ only about 24 to 50 employees. So, I like that you're seeing a future of work, but that's really what we need here, because there's a lot of good jobs. I mean, Indian River County had an opportunity to set up Harris Corp here, which Harris has a lot of jobs that pay good, that have benefits. And that is the biggest problem we're having with Indian River County. We can easily become a Fort Pierce because the housing is so expensive here. They're building the new houses that they're building here now are at 7.5% interest. Who in the world is going to afford a house here in Indian River County that's working a retail job, a waitress job, even working for the school district? It's hard because some of those salaries don't go above $50,000 a year. You've got secretaries that work at the school district. You've got teachers' aides. The highest paid secretary works at the district office. You've got the secretaries at the school level that are making about $30,000 if they're lucky. Jobs, that's the economic growth. Do you see yourself working with the Chamber of Commerce, because they're the ones that are supposed to be working at making these negotiations, and with all these states in California and New York where companies are picking up and leaving because they can't even survive there because it's just crazy. Why aren't they, somebody needs to put their finger on it and say, hey, we need to reach out to these companies. Like you said, high tech. When I worked in Orlando, I worked for Insight Electronics, and that was a microchip board making company, and people would run their prototypes through us, and we would put boards together, and all those little things you're seeing now, chips and people, they were coming up with that in the 1990s. And I would like to see someone come in and be able to work with the Chamber of Commerce and say, hey, look, where are you at? We've got these small manufacturing companies here, but they're not large enough to bring that income and competition. And like you said, we have property on the other side of 95 that I'm afraid, just like you, they're going to put more housing out there. And then where do you have room to put any industry or enterprises that can bring a working living to the residents here? Because anything out past 95 Indian River County still stays beautiful because everybody drives out that way to go work. So there's got to be a plan. And I kind of like that you brought that up.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Speaking about those orange groves over there, when I was first coming down here 14 years ago, I mean, before I'm not too familiar on the subject. I remember I heard of something about a beetle that infected. Don't quote me on the what took all these trees out. But yeah, I mean, you have all those groves the whole way to Yeehaw Junction. I mean, Indian River County goes just about to the interstate, 70 out there, and it can so easily be bought up by a developer, and they, 100, when you're talking 800 acres, and you're talking the average house is only on like a tenth or quarter acre. It could get silly really fast. And I go back to, I'm a younger guy, I have the energy, and like I said, I want to have a family, I want to have a future, and I think my biggest advantage is I'm coming with a clean slate. I don't have any of these friends. I'm in nobody's pockets. I have no problem sticking my nose in these people's business and try to get some stuff moving instead of just asking Big Daddy government to bring in more, give us more free money, print more money. Let's start actually building. Let's start being what America used to be, where we have our own infrastructure and we're making our own money and we're self-reliant. And with that'll make the communities way stronger. You'll have a better education. You have a better environment. That's just a couple of the many better things that it would be happening. So yeah, that's my biggest thing I've noticed is the jobs. We need to have proper high-paying jobs because that's a big thing with people talking about the living situation, which I see it. You'd have to be blind not to realize it's costly and it's not sustainable. If you're trying to raise a family and you're paying property taxes went up, you're trying to go out to eat, food's got more expensive, fuel's got more expensive, everything's got more expensive. So instead of let's just beg the state or the federal government to bail us out, I think it's time to start doing it ourselves. And like I said, I'm coming from an angle of being proactive, and I want to protect this place. This place is beautiful. So that's we could be a Fort Pierce before we know it, and then you never, once that happens, the chances of turning back is slim to none. So
Yeah, thanks. So you mentioned how you don't have any friends and you can't be bought. So considering that, what type of policy could a county commissioner propose? Like, what type of policy change could a county commissioner propose to limit some type of business like that?
to limit what do you mean by that?
So by you saying you can't be bought, you don't have friends, if that's an issue with other candidates or other commissioners, what type of policy as would Commissioner Shaw propose, what type of policy change would you propose to try to limit that being available for other commissioners?
That's a good question. That is that's a difficult situation because you could look at our country as a whole. You could just blatantly see that it's an issue, at state level, local level, federal level, and it kind of goes back to I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up with strong morals. So you have to have a strong moral compass to not be swayed and truly believe in what you stand for. Because no matter what kind of legislation you try to pass, if the person's corrupt, there's always going to be loopholes. So I'm coming as a single young guy. Well, I'm not single. I'm just saying I'm just one normal guy. I'm just one guy, and trying to make a difference and potentially show anybody that's paying attention that you can make a difference. You don't have to just sit back and say, "Oh, this is corrupt," and say it's all rigged and none of it matters. You could put your foot down and stand on your morals and don't back down from what you believe in. So that I'm answering your question saying that would be almost, I'm not going to say impossible. That'd be very difficult to give you a definitive answer on that, because I think if the people are morally corrupt, no matter what kind of legislation you have, there's always going to be a way around it.
Thank you. I know it was a difficult question, but I think you answered it in a good way. So thank you.
So David, talking about, properties out west, I went to an auction in Indian River County a few years ago just to see what it was about. And it was the most amazing thing that I noticed, that I learned, because what it was is they were auctioning off tracts of land out west in 95. And the way they auctioned them off was they had these buyers that had people come in and they were on the phone with the purchaser to purchase this land. And I was thinking, why isn't the Chamber of Commerce reaching out to big tech companies and telling them when we're having these land auctions to buy them? Because these people that are buying these lands, they could be contractors for housing. And I would rather see contracting for industry to bring jobs here. Because when they auctioned these lands, they had one property, for example, had 300 acres. Another property had 1,200 acres. Another property had 2,000 acres. And when they auctioned it, when it was that person's turn to auction it, he took the bid, and that meant he could buy any one of those properties, any one of those, the 300, the 1,200, the 2,000. He can buy them for the price that he won the auction price at. So they were literally selling per acre lots on these properties for as low as like $500 an acre. And it blew me away. I was like, man, I wish I had enough money to buy all that acreage. But what was concerning me is not knowing who's on the end of that phone. And okay, is that a building contractor buying all that property, planning another subdivision or community development, and still we don't have jobs and industry coming. So as county commissioner, would you be able to hone in on that and bring in the Chamber of Commerce and say, hey, they do this usually, I think it's March or June. I can't remember which month this was, but I want to say it's March. And somehow the county commission needs to work with the Chamber of Commerce to really work hard and bring those businesses out here so that we have a sustainable work economy that can survive the housing industry, because I don't know that I could survive this housing industry if I were to have to buy my house in 2024. I bought my house in 2016, thank goodness, when the interest rates were at my house. I bought my house at 3% interest, 7.5% interest. I have no idea how people are doing it now, and it really concerns me.
Yeah, definitely. On the regards to the property values, I'm being patient because all that surged up due to COVID, and once people realized the interest rates, people just started buying them up. Because prior to COVID, you could live in Vero fairly comfortably. So I'm gonna hold my peace on that, because I want to wait and see what happens with the actual housing market. definitely with these interest rates, with the way they were, now that they're talking about, cutting them. And so I'm kind of sitting back. I'm going to wait on that one because we've had up and down. We've had up and down with the housing market. I was a younger guy, but I remember what happened in 2008. So people were just upside down, out of nowhere. So that stuff's never out of the equation. But regarding these properties, that's interesting what you're talking about. So they kind of have a monopoly, those guys out there, because there's no competition at those auctions. See, the main thing, definitely, I have no problem going in and talking to whoever I got to talk to get us to start working towards getting us industry here. The biggest thing for these county commissioners have control over the zoning. So as long as those groves stay zoned the way they are, they could buy them up as much as they want, as long as that zoning stays agriculture and it prohibits them from putting permanent foundation on it or structures. That is the key. That is the power that county commissioners have. So these conglomerates can buy up the land, but they can come with their proposals and say, hey, let's turn this land into commercial real estate. No, it's going to stay farmland. So that's my viewpoint on preventing that land from immediately just being built up, because they would love to. They'd get credits from the government. They'd love to just build up townhouses, just rows, and then they just ship people in. I have this article just a month ago from the AP Associated Press. Democrat-led cities pay for migrants' tickets to other places as resources dwindle. And that was Denver. So if the county commissioners, let their, get blinded, maybe they get their couple extra bucks on the side. I don't want to talk anything bad, but I'm just being reasonable. And they change that zoning. That's when you lose all authority, you lose all power. And you have no say. So I think the biggest thing is to protect our zoning. And it goes back to being proactive. See this before it can cause the damage. That's my take on that.
Oh, David.
Yes.
Regarding our taxes, as a commissioner, do you plan to promote any changes to existing taxes? Do you see any taxes that you want to play with? Lower, increase? What's your thought?
Not at the moment. My priority is to protect us, and then once I get very familiar and I have it by the reins, then I could get way more detailed. So at the moment, no comment on the taxes.
And how do you feel about having limited government where, for example, we have a Children's Service Advisory Committee. It's been active for about 20 years. When it first started, it was about $150,000 that they were putting aside from our general fund to grant nonprofits. But over 20 years, it's grown to nearly $3 million in this year's budget. And if you divide that by 20 years, it's about $158,000 a year added to each year's budget over 19 years. And I've spoken to many residents that are not in favor of our taxes being used to supplement nonprofit revenue, because charity is supposed to be a personal choice, not something that comes out of our ad valorem or our general budget. And our general budget, that's something that the commission would use for, other emergencies in our neighborhood, like another hurricane. They have that funding there, or even to do another grant for, the fire department or the police department or the sheriff department. How do you feel about that? Would you consider shrinking down, taking a look at that NGO donations to nonprofits, and maybe adjusting that budget so that it's not at a $3 million budget a year?
Yeah, my take on that, I think that's completely out of line, giving money to the NGO. I have this article here. It said in 2023, Indian River County Commission approved an additional $425,000 to a nonprofit showing income of $19.8 million. Now, this is for the Learning Alliance. So I don't want to be negative again. I like education's very important. But my take on that, why wouldn't we just give that to our school directly? Why would we give it to a nonprofit? Why don't we just give it right to the schools so we could pay these teachers a proper wage, make the environment a lot more, you want to be there because they're making enough money, because these teachers have to deal with a lot of things. So I think that's completely out of line, and I would love to dig into that and find out what's actually going on, because I don't think we should be giving to my initial response. I don't think we should be giving to any NGO. Now, that may change once I research and if it makes sense, but to me, giving $425,000 to Learning Alliance instead of just giving $425,000 directly to our schools, that feels strange to me.
So David, there's another thing that's come up from residents. One of the big transitions going on now is septic to sewer. Some of the main lines are very old, and the diameter of these pipes are inadequate for the growth we're experiencing. How would you address this concern? And would there be tax implications? What do you think?
There was another thing about that. They raised the taxes for the garbage pickup. I saw that, and they voted on that 3-2, which I felt that was wrong, because you didn't give the community, the county, their choice. You forced them to pay for it. Now, regarding septic and water, I mean, that is very vital to us. A clean environment. I enjoy just being able to go to the toilet and flush it, not have to worry about an issue happening from it. So I would that goes back to, once I get the reins and I actually see all the money, see where it's going, I could make what I would say firstly is, no, I would not go right to let me raise taxes and let me put more strain on the people of our community. Let me see where I could adjust from. That's because that goes back to managing my family's business. I have real estate properties, so I'm more blue collar. Let's figure this out. Let's not just ask for more money. So that's where I would start with that. See where the budget is, see what adjustments need to be made. But I think it is very vital to have proper sewage and water.
Hey, I'm going to have to ask you this, because one of my viewers sent me a text, and they were wondering, one of the concerns that they have is 15-minute cities or smart cities. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's very it's disconcerting. I saw that was it Martin County and Indian River County spent about $8 million fighting the Bright Line, and ended up losing. So it came through. It's something in the back of my mind. I would have to research it more to give a proper answer, but it's definitely something I'm aware of, and I saw that people have been fighting it. It's definitely an area of concern for Indian River County, and the idea of it is scary because I know what Miami is. I know what Fort Pierce is. Orlando. I like Vero, and I'm not too fond of the potential of shipping people in and out that easy.
Okay, so I think you got that confused with the Bright Line. I was asking about 15-minute cities and smart.
So that's associated with the Bright Line, correct?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean that Bright Line that's directly from Miami to Orlando. I mean it's a rocket. I think they said it exceeds 80 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure 70, 80 miles an hour. I've seen on the signs.
Yeah, but 15-minute cities. What we're discussing, what we're referring to, is the cities that are built in where you can't really drive your car. Everything's like in walking distance. There's restaurants. You can actually find them in Tampa.
Yes.
But what I wanted to ask you also is, right now we have the bus system that's free. And the reason it's free is because we have less than 200K residents. But once we have more, 200K residents and more, the buses aren't going to be free. But I also was watching the county commission meetings, and they're thinking about going from gas-powered buses to battery-operated buses. How do you feel about that?
Isn't that what they have in San Francisco, where they have the power lines dangling down? How would you? I would need to get a more understanding of because I know they put that new electrical plant down, heading west. I don't. It would be interesting, the electrical infrastructure that would be needed. I think that's, in my personal opinion, that is unnecessary at the moment, because that just adds more expenses that is going to be passed down to our county, because the stuff's not free.
Yeah, right. The Department of Transportation there's some grants that they're offering to make the transition, but what I was wondering is, once they make the transition, how long are these batteries going to last, and how much do they cost to replace them? And they were talking about having purchase of 25 buses, and these were all the quotes and stuff at the time. 25 buses, and you would have like 13 buses on and the rest of them running. And they would have charging stations. And I just was wondering how you felt about that. If you thought, in the long run, would that benefit us, or would we just be better off doing gas buses?
Are they gas or diesel? They're diesel, pretty sure, correct?
They were talking about gas. The buses that come around town, those little buses, they're gas.
Yep.
They're not big enough to run on diesel.
See,
actually,
I don't like
propane.
I don't like anything that's forced in it. I don't like anything that makes you dependent. And I know, just from a little stuff because I used to be interested in Tesla and stuff. It is very expensive to maintain those batteries, and the mechanics that you would need to be able to work on those. I don't have too much of a comment on it, but I don't like it because I'm more into protecting, and I feel like that takes away our autonomy a little more. because the limited range, the charge times, the infrastructure, how much construction is going to be going on for who knows how long that would take to run that kind of power through this, through the county. I'm going to have to research on that more but that's my initial thoughts on that.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for David at this time?
Joanne, I'm all out of questions. I think you stole a few of mine. I think they were great answers, though.
Yeah, good answers. We have some viewers. Any viewers want to ask any questions? Just raise your little hand there. Just do 100% or do. All right, there you go. Come on, girl, bring it on.
Hi, David. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're running, and I love your father. And I was just wondering, what kind of business does your family have again? I forgot what it was.
It's agriculture with compost, red worms. It's a very niche business. If you're into farming, if you're into gardening, you know all about it. But that's what it is. It's composting and red worms.
I think your father came to one of our meetings with some red worms, I guess it was, and he was giving those out. I live in a condo on Beachside, and I know one thing that's really important to me is that there's a moratorium on building high rises here, anything over 3 stories, I believe it is. How do you feel about that? Would you change the zoning on Beachside to increase the level that can be built here?
Not at all. Definitely no. I like the skyline. I like being able to see. You drive through. It goes back to I'm here to protect, maintain Vero. It's a beautiful place, and promote steady growth that makes sense. And to me, that doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on board today. I really love these spaces. These spaces make this time available to the viewers and the citizens outside of a traditional forum with scripted questions. And it gives the citizens an opportunity to jump right in and be part of it. So I really love this. And I want to thank you, David, for coming on. And, before we close out, David, can you let everyone know where they can find your page or make a contribution to your campaign or sign up as a volunteer, or how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, at the moment, my website is under construction, but it's davidrarshaw.com. And I'm going to have it up in the near future. That is my website, davidrarshaw.com.
All right. And I want to thank Mike from To The Point podcast. If you haven't visited his podcast, please go visit his podcast. You can find him on Rumble. Where else can they find you, Mike?
Oh, we're all over the place. Wherever you can listen to any podcast or video, we're probably out there. Thank you for the mention, Joanne.
All right. Well, that's the end of our town hall. Please follow me. We're going to have another town hall on February 23rd, and that's for Tracy Zudans at 6 p.m. And if you enjoyed this, please like it, please share it, and go ahead and comment. Thank you very much. You guys have a good evening.